Lime Rock Park is a short, fast, and tough circuit located in Lakeville, northwest of Connecticut, and one of North America's most historic road racing circuits alongside Road America, Laguna Seca, and Watkins Glen. Obviously, it was the golden age of road racing in America. The pioneer behind Lime Rock was Jim Vail, whose father owned the land on which the circuit was eventually created. His friend Jack Fisher owned an MGTC and they frequently drove it in circles in a cornfield on the Vail family's Lime Rock property. In the spring of 1955, he was approached by members of the SCCA who proposed the construction of a permanent road racing circuit. Vail was persuaded. He invited John Fitch to join and signed him as the director of the Lime Rock Corporation. Fitch then called businessman racer Bill Milliken, head of Cornell's Aeronautical Laboratory and a leader in highway safety. Cornell Labs reviewed the Lime Rock circuit design, making it slightly changes for safety. It was the first time that scientific and safety principles were used to design a circuit in North America. With his father's approval, Vail laid out a plan for a 1.5-mile circuit based on an aerial survey of his family's 325-acre park in the valley. The trees were cut down for the mountain circuit, but it was never completed. Although Vail had to redirect a small river, the circuit's layout was mostly determined by nature, including the rolling hills that serves as an automotive amphitheater ideal for picnickers. On 20th April 1957, the SCCA held the circuit's inaugural event. The circuit, built as an SCCA driver school, had to be repaved after 152 cars tore it up during testing. It took 3 days and every dump truck in the area to repair the asphalt surface, but the program ran still on schedule. The first race took place on 28 April 1957. A crowd of 6,000 people witnessed 10 races, which included a mix of G production and MG classes. Ted Sprigg won the G production class, while Charles Callanan won the MG class. Both were the first recorded winners on the 1.5-mile circuit. In 1959, Lime Rock held the most famous Formula Libre race in the US, with Indy 500 champion Roger Wayne won the race. However, not every resident is a strong supporter of the facility. In August 1958, the opposition formed the Lime Rock Protection Committee, and over time, they would file a number of legal challenges to undermine activities of the Lime Rock Corporation. The biggest complaint, however, was the disruption caused to the church. Claims of services being disrupted by noise from the circuit, as well as parishioners finding their regular roadside parking spaces occupied on race weekends. In a lawsuit supported by the nearby Trinity Episcopal Church, the group of 28 individuals claimed the track was unnuanced and that irreparable injury to the plaintiffs had occurred. The group brought the circuit to Litchfield Superior Court, in an attempt at banning Sunday racing. The court granted a permanent injunction on Sunday racing in 1959, which was later upheld by the Connecticut Supreme Court in 1963. Initially, racing on Sundays was not permitted until 2 p.m. By 1975, the committee was able to limit the use of unmuffled race cars, restrict the number of campers, prohibit the use of all aircraft, including helicopters, and establish a barrier zone to dampen noise from the circuit. Nevertheless, it preserved the track's right to host sports car racing on Fridays and Saturdays, and testing on Tuesdays, and other operational advantages. In the early 1980s, Jim Vail sold the track. Meanwhile, Skip Barber, a former racing driver who founded the Skip Barber Racing School in 1975, led a group of investors, all of whom were racing school graduates, bought the circuit from Harry Theodorakopoulos in 1984 and eventually became the sole owner. Barber maintained the circuit's character despite a number of modernizations. The first came with the addition of a chicane after the sweeping uphill corner, in response to a horrific crash involving John Morton, which went airborne after the race. Luckily, Morton escaped with facial burns as his most serious injury. However, Lime Rock Park underwent two other major multi-million-dollar improvements. The first was in 2008, when the entire surface was repaved and several safety elements were updated to the latest standards. The Morton chicane has been replaced by a revised uphill complex. West Bend also received a slower alternative route. The second major renovation, known as the Road to 60 project, began in late 2014. Even after many renovations, Lime Rock Park remains completely unchanged. The circuit appeared to have an uncertain future. Barber lost another court battle in 2020 to overturn the long-standing restriction against Sunday racing. With the land now far more valuable for non-racing purposes and Barber in his 80s, the sale looked inevitable. Thankfully, Skip Barber has announced a new structure for Lime Rock Park in 2021. Barber has owned the facility for 37 years, and he will remain a significant owner in the new entity and will be an integral part of its management committee. Despite a Sunday racing ban, Lime Rock Park still attracts top-level racing series. Set in beautiful parkland, it has no grandstand, inviting spectators to picnic on the grass and giving it a friendly, family-oriented reputation. Lime Rock Park is a renewed modern racing facility after almost 60 years of operation, but it remains the same historic Lime Rock as it was when it first opened.